We're very excited. We're going to cover a lot of our refrigeration products and actually show off some new refrigeration products for you as well. So with that, I am with UEi Test Instruments. My name's Louise Keller. I'm the Central Regional Sales Manager. And joining us for this presentation is Mark Jones. Mark, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Mark Jones. I'm with R.A. Kaplan. We're the local representative for UEi here in Indiana, and have been for, it's more than 10 years now. So I've been associated with UEi for a long time. Seen a lot of new products come out, a lot of changes and advancement, in the industry as things have come along, and that's one of the things we want to talk about later on is one of the newer products that we've got out.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to jump into talking about some of our new product going on, and we're going to talk about some of the familiar product. One of the first things that we kind of want to talk about tonight's all about refrigeration. If where you're at is anything like where I'm at, we've definitely had to turn on the air conditioning this week, and it looks like it's going to stay on for the duration of the season, which means that you guys have been very extremely busy going and getting your customers all taken care of, and we want to show you the tools that are going to make that a little bit easier. So with that being said, one of my favorites, you might see it sitting up here, over here on the counter next to Mark, but this is actually our WRS 110 wireless refrigerant scale. And there's a few things that make this really exciting for me. The first thing about this scale is that it's 110 pound capacity. It looks rugged because it is. It has a 0.1 ounce resolution. And Mark, do you know what happens to be like right in that? Do you happen to have a quarter on you today?
I think I do have.
You do have a quarter. So we're just going to go ahead and turn on our scale today and let you see exactly how this is going to work. Maybe.
Okay.
The struggle is real, right? Every time you try to live demo something, that's about the time. So, Mark, you want to throw that...
connected there? All right.
Whoops. I'm going to show you this on the app. You guys can get that for us. Mark, if you want to throw that quarter on there, and I'm going to not be able to see what that is, but I'm going to guess that we're probably pretty close to
our display's not
the 0.2 ounce right there. Mark, I want you to go ahead and take that quarter off there for me, all right?
Move that somewhere else here.
Yeah, if we could take that off and show it us again. Look at that, 0.2 ounces. Now, Mark, I noticed something. You didn't seem to put that in the center. Does it matter?
Nope. That's one nice thing about this scale. And the other one we'll mention as well is it doesn't have to be perfectly centered on the scale to get a consistent reading. They also don't have to be perfectly level. So, when you're on the job, you're by that condensing unit, something's settled a little bit over the years. You don't have to say, oh man, I got to get a shovel and dig that out so I got a perfectly level area for my scale. Just having that on the ground, you don't want it at too great of an angle, but it doesn't have to be perfectly flat to get an accurate reading. So
that's pretty neat. And I see something else. So I know we've established these are refrigerant scales and not drones or anything like that.
Exactly.
But I happen to notice one over here sitting there. What makes that one a little bit different?
So the difference between the two of these, this is that, as you said, the WRS 110, which is 110 pound capacity, and this is the WRSX, which is a 330 pound capacity. So for your contractors that do more commercial work with the larger torpedo cylinders, so forth, you've got a lot more capacity with this model. The other thing that we add with the X model is we also have a display. So not only does it work with the app, but it also has a digital readout on the display. Another function we didn't mention with the app is you do have a programmable alarm. So while you're working on charging that system, if you want to set an alarm for how many pounds you want to charge as you're getting close, now we can walk back to your truck or get a tool or something like that and know and be alerted that, hey, I'm approaching my my charge that I want. So you get back to the system and shut that off. It doesn't automatically stop the flow of refrigerant, but it will alert you when you reach that alarm point.
Excellent. And I noticed that the WRS-X also comes with a bag that makes it easy to be able to carry around. Mm-hmm. One of the other features that all of the scales have, we have a middle one too, which is the WRS 210 is that we did put a nice little hole right in here so you can put a strap or a carabiner or something like that and be able to hang it up in your truck. Very durable, very rugged. This is my personal sample that you saw, which I travel all around the country with, and it's very exciting because TSA has not managed to beat it up, and I throw it in my suitcase and let it take it through there. So I'm excited about those scales, especially with those critical charge systems that you guys are working on. We know how accurate you need to be with your refrigeration. So keeping it within... Mark, did you just steal that quarter from me? Oh, wait, I was supposed to steal the quarter from you. It's also a nice way. I know. It's also a nice way to pick up a little extra pocket change to show how great it is. Mark really did just get my quarter, so I guess I'm 25 cents out today, but that's okay. But you can get both of these here, and then we have a few other things that we want to talk about. The next thing that we want to talk about is a digital Micron Gauge. So this is the UEi digital Micron Gauge, and Mark is also going to be doubling as my Vanna White this evening. So make sure you're giving him a virtual round of applause out there, okay? But what's really nice about this Micron Gauge is it has a range that's from 0 to 15,000 microns. It has several scales that you're able to scroll through depending on. It'll also measure your vacuum and your temperature. It has 3 modes that you're able to go through. So you can see your leak rate, leak test, and run mode. But honestly, one of my favorite features on there is that it has an oil contamination and sensor fail, which is really nice. And one of the things that I've learned... Mark, do you see this at the counters too?
Accuracy is a big thing on, a Micron gauge. Because really, what we're doing when we're pulling microns, pulling a vacuum on a system, is we're trying to get all the moisture out of that system. Okay? So, 1 inch of mercury is like 25,400 microns. So when we're talking pulling a system down to 500 microns, it's a pretty fine measurement. So knowing that sensor is contaminated and I need to clean it out a little bit is going to be important. So I get an accurate reading to know exactly what, where I'm at in my system to ensure I've got all the moisture out of that system, because especially, with the polyester oil, it's more sensitive with any moisture in the system creating acid, and of course that's going to affect the life of the system.
So what you're telling me is it's not a matter of if the sensor gets contaminated, it's a matter of when the sensor gets contaminated.
And part of that can be service practices. If when you put this on your on your system, put a short hose on with a ball valve on it. So before you put any refrigerant in the system, you can shut it off. And, not to get into too much on vacuum, but follow the proper procedure for starting up and shutting down your vacuum pump so we don't introduce more oil into that system that can contaminate that sensor.
All right. Well, one of the things that I've definitely heard is that the sensor gets contaminated. And what do you do when the sensor gets contaminated, I think, is a really important thing, because you can clean the Micron Gauge. And that's something that I do want to touch base with tonight. So if you notice, Mark's holding up our Micron Gauge, and it has that nice 45-degree coupler attached to it. But if you were to remove that coupler for us and right into where that little spout is, if you put some rubbing alcohol in there, shake it up really good, let it drain out and let it air out for about 20 minutes. You're going to be able to get rid of all of that oil. So if you guys have been having trouble with the Micron Gauge, definitely take a few minutes to clean it and get the UEi one anyways, so it tells you when you need to clean it, because I'd like to think I remember everything. I don't. So that's a nice little fail safe there for you. So I'm really excited about that.
And notice one last thing, we do have a little dust cap, so that before you put in your toolbox, put the dust cap on it and help keep anything out of it when you're not using it as well.
Excellent. Well, the next thing that we want to get into is we want to talk a little bit about the RLD10. So we're going to get a little bit into the leak refrigeration side of things. So I went ahead, UEi offers 2 different types. This is the RLD10, which is going to detect the traditional and blended refrigerants, so all of those ozone-friendly ones. And it's going to have adjustable sensitivity on there. It has a nice little gooseneck that you're going to be able to extend. You can get into some of those tighter spots when you're working on that. And it's, it's a nice, reliable leak detector. Sometimes simple is, the best on those. But I do want to show you, because I really enjoyed this RLD15B that we have here. If you notice, it has a much more modern shape going on with it. It's going to have a lot more ergonomical design. It has a little bit of a different sensor on it for you. And you are going to actually be able to see the numeric scaling of the leak size. It does have an internal pump in there. And it comes with a nice little leak vial that you're going to be able to test on that. So, now I hear there's something else out there. Do you have something?
Yeah,
Mark?
like I say, a couple of things to point out. One of the big differences between the two of these is the RLD15B has a pump. So it's actually drawing that sample in, across the sensor, rather than just relying on that ambient level. The other thing this does is it automatically calibrates. So let's say you've taken that coil cabinet front off, you've got saturation of the leak that's been in there. This is going to zero to that ambient level of gas, and then it takes a stronger concentration before it starts to go off again. So that kind of helps you narrow down where that leak is, because hey, it stopped. I move around, it starts to go off again. That means I've hit a higher concentration. Okay, so I'm closer to that leak source. And as far as that leak vial that you mentioned that come with, that's a handy tool to check that sensor, because all leak detectors, those sensors do have a life to them. Okay, and I think this one's 300 hours, if I remember correctly.
Somewhere in there
is the life of that. But as that sensor ages, hey, use that leak vial, quick check to make sure that your sensor's picking up before you go out and spend some time looking for a leak on a system.
Well, that's pretty cool. But I hear there's some other things going on out on the market, Mark.
Yep.
Now, will those be able to help me with like the R290s and the R600s of the world?
So that's something new. Now, R290 and R600 has been used for a long time in some of the blends because they carry oil very well. So if you had a blended refrigerant that had 600 or 290 in it, your standard leak detector is going to pick that up. But now they're starting to use 290 and 600 as standalone refrigerants in some of these smaller systems, which are hydrocarbons. These leak detectors are not going to pick up that as a refrigerant. So that brings us to a combustible gas detector. Okay? So this is the same leak detector that you would use for locating a natural gas or a propane. If you're putting in a gas furnace, you want to check your lines, make sure all your joints are good. That's actually what you want to use if you're trying to pick up R600 or R290 as a combustible gas, even though it's being used as a refrigerant.
Yep. So just some things to be aware of. I do get a lot of questions when I'm out there in the field about the R290s and the R600s. They are definitely becoming more popular throughout the states. So if you do happen to be working on a system that is requiring that, make sure that you're using a combustible leak detector as opposed to a refrigerant leak detector. So that kind of covers some of the products that we have from UEi that are going to help you as you're out there servicing all those air conditioner and refrigeration units out there in the world right now. But I want to get to some more exciting products that we have right there, which is actually going to be our Hub series. And this is something we came out with the Hub 6 not that long ago. But I do want to talk a little bit about it, and then I want to talk about a brand new part of the Hub family for us. So let's just start a little bit about the Hub 6. This is a smart refrigerant kit, so it is going to be one of those wireless probe kits, and there's a lot of advantages to being able to use a wireless kit as opposed to your traditional manifolds with hoses, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I do want to just kind of give you, this is a quick glance of, it's a nice little tiny compact carrying case going on for you. And then we're going to go through the individual pieces. So we'll circle back to this slide a little bit further into the presentation. But I do want to let you know, just kind of give you an overview of where you're going to wind up putting all of your probes. So with that, let's just jump into the probes, why they're important, and what that's going to help you be able to do for your job. So the very first probe that we're going to talk about is the wireless hygrometer probe. What's really nice about that, if you notice, there was a nice little click. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But with this nice little, it has a 90-degree locking feature in it. And then it has only a 1/4 inch probe diameter, which is the smallest one on the market. And is that important, Mark?
It's nice because that means a smaller hole that you've got to put in the duct, or if there's one already there, you don't have to enlarge it. Somebody's had something else there because you've got the smallest one. And one thing while you're talking about that click where that locks in, let's spin that around, because what makes that do that is that little button on the side. And that's one thing you don't want to forget to do. When you go to open or close that, push that button to release it so that you don't have to pop that button back in.
Yeah. And they're a lot more durable than any of them on the market now. So one of the other things that's really nice about this is you see this little shiny piece right here. We actually put magnets on the back of it. So that way you're able to attach it right into the plenum. You have the 90-degree angle, so you're going to be right in the center of that airflow going on. It's going to give you the most accurate reading out there. So that covers the wireless hygrometer probe. The next thing that we want to talk about is the wireless pressure probe. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out there for you. So if you guys can see that slide, it looks like that pressure probe is going a little bit crazy. But what I want to show you is it's actually showing you that it has a 180-degree swivel going on with that. And one of the reasons that's really important is some of those units. You've seen those out in the field, right, Mark? Where they're really tight. It's hard to get in. So by being able to make that 180-degree swivel, you're going to be able to get into those. But you guys might be asking, all right, well, that's great. That makes it a little bit easier. But I might be seeing this little black cap over here. And that's a pass report. Mark, why is a pass report important for us?
Just as you were talking about a small area, a tight spot you're trying to get into, we don't have to add a T to this. If we want to add our hose to be able to add refrigerant to that system, or we're talking about a Micron gauge earlier to draw a vacuum to make that connection. Now again, like we were talking about, if you're going to put a Micron gauge on this to make that connection, put a short little 6-inch hose with a ball valve on there so you can shut that off when you're done pulling your vacuum before you go to charge the system. So.
Well, that makes it convenient. And then when I look at the top of this, I notice that there's a little wired input. And that little wired input right there is going to go so you can attach your pipe clamp. So it's just a 3.5 millimeter connection that's going to plug right into both of them. And what that is going to allow you to do now is you can get your temperature and your line readings. And Mark, this clamp looks a little bit different. Like, is that a narrower jaw head that I see going on with it?
One thing that they wanted to design this to was to fit well in there so that you get into, especially on your service valves on your unit, where that's swedged out, you make that connection. If we can fit in between there, a lot of times your insul tube just comes up to that. If you don't have to cut that insul tube, now it's going to start fraying apart. You can fit in between there. You don't have to touch the insul tube and cut it. But a small, narrow spot to get into. The other thing that's a little bit different about this clamp, I know we're not going to be able to see inside there, but this actually has a thermistor rather than a thermocouple. So that's going to give you a quicker response time. Actually, he's going to be able to get in and zoom in on that. You can see that's a thermistor style probe rather than the thermocouple, which typically is a little more accurate and it's going to give you a faster response time than your traditional thermocouple.
Yep. And one of the other things that he was showing when he did have that open, if you notice that it's a little bit more on the recess side in there and it doesn't extend outside of that pipe clamp. So you're going to get a more accurate reading because it's not going to get any of that ambient air contaminating what the temperature is. So, that's how much we know our slides. We just moved right on to the next one. Technology, it's great. Presentations live, it's always a fun joy. So the Hub 6 is available now. It works on the Apple and Android platform for you. And that being said, I promised you guys that we were going to talk about some other additions to the Hub family. I do want to mention, though, that there are variations of the Hub for you. So maybe you just want to be able to do the ambient air and just know your supply and return. We do have a kit that is just these two probes. That is the Hub 2 that's available. It comes in a very small little carrying case, but it comes with both of those. Maybe you don't want to be able to do the supply and return and you're just really looking to replace your manifold. That's going to be the Hub 4, which is going to be everything that you see minus those two probes. So you're going to get a nice little kit like that. And then the full complete side that you can get is the Hub 6. As I said, that's available for the Apple and Android market going on right now. So that being said, I'm going to set the Hub 6 to the side. I love the Hub 6. I think it's a fantastic product. But I want to introduce you to one of our new products, which is the newest addition to this family, which is called the Hub 8. And this is my brand new shiny demo sample that I was able to pick up yesterday. So welcome, guys. This is what the Hub 8 looks like. You might notice there's some similarities to what that Hub 6 was, but there's 2 additional probes. And we're going to talk a little bit about what makes this Hub 8 the deluxe kit. So we added 2 more pieces. And that very first line, you might see that we added a vacuum gauge probe. Still keeps the 2 hygrometer probes, has the 2 pressure probes, 2 updated pipe clamps, and 1 outdoor temperature probe. And we're going to talk about what is going to make those a little bit different and how that is going to affect what you're looking at.
Let's go back to that slide you had there just a minute
Sure,
ago.
Mark.
Because one thing we mentioned we were going to come back to that.
Yes.
I don't think you have it later. So you can see there you've got multiple places, and I'm looking at the slide here so I can kind of, well, actually I got it behind me too.
You do?
Yeah, we've got multiple places that we can place our air probes. And of course, anytime we're doing that, the closer we can be to that coil is going to give us the most accurate, temperature drop or rise. For using this, we're setting up a furnace with just our air probes. Because if I put this down here, maybe I look at this and say, man, I'm only getting a 12-degree drop across my evaporator coil. Or if I put it down here, maybe I was getting 18 degrees, but I picked up a lot of heat as I was going through this ductwork. So, one thing these will calculate when we start to show the app is it'll actually calculate enthalpy. So, the closer you are to that coil, the more accurate those calculations are going to be.
Excellent. Thank you for that explanation, Mark. The first pieces that we want to talk about, same goodness that you just saw in that Hub 6, that nice 90-degree locking feature, that 1/4-inch probe going on. It has the magnetic mounts to hold into the plenum so you can have the hands-free operation. And one of the things that I didn't really talk a whole lot about, and I want to kind of circle back in there before we get too deep into this set, is about why having a wireless set is so important. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the scales and the critical charge systems that we have, that you have to be very accurate. And I've heard it many times, and Mark, I'm sure you've heard it too, about people not wanting to hook up their whole hoses because they lose refrigerant going through those 5-foot line sets and everything like that.
Especially with the new micro-channel coils. So even some of the manufacturers are using those, have told us when we've been at open houses where they've been there as well, is, hey, you put a 3 or 5 foot set of hoses on that system a couple, 3 times, you may lose enough refrigerant to impact the charge and influence the efficiency of that system. So as short as this connection is, we've got a very little distance, we're losing very little refrigerant when we're connecting that and disconnecting that from the system.
Right. And so the newer technologies are really requiring. Yeah, we have a question.
We did have a question from Ricardo. He asked, how long is the stem?
The stem of...
Ricardo, you might need to clarify a little bit for
Is he referring to our stem here where we're looking at, or are we looking at for our air probe?
Let's just talk about both of them.
Okay.
How long is that?
So that's probably, I don't know as we have a measurement on that in the spec sheet, but that's about a 6-inch long probe, I would say.
Yeah.
Let's go in there, about a 1/4 inch long, about 6 inches long. So, and then as far as our stem for this, that's probably about 3 inches.
3.5 inches.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty compact.
Ricardo, that one.
That one?
That one? This one? Okay, yeah. So about 3.5 inches. And one thing I should, before we forget to mention when we're talking about these two, there is an O-ring kit available for these as well. So, if you get, over time, putting them on, taking them off, the O-rings are replaceable. You can do that yourself. So,
yeah. So, thank you. And one of the joys I told you we're debuting this today is I want you guys to actually be able to see the app while we do this. So Mark, i.e. Vanna White tonight, is actually going to be pulling up the tablet, and we're going to have you go on the air side for us, and we're going to kind of just show you a little bit of some live reading. So one of the really nice things before we started this is I actually hooked it up, made all of the connections within the app to the probes. And what's really nice about that is once you've done it, it auto remembers every time. So once I turn on my first hygrometer probe, it's going to automatically start registering.
So we don't have to make that connection every time you turn it on. You're not going back through the setup and saying, okay, I got to program that again, and which one is that? We do include some stickers with it, so if you want to put like a blue sticker, for the low side and a red sticker for the high side, or however you want to color code those, we do have those stickers, so it can save you some time on when you go to use it the next time after you've gone through the setup.
Yep, and you can actually color code it when you get into the setup, which up by Mark's finger, up there is the little toolbox. Other way.
Yep.
Nope, the little toolbox. But we're gonna. Hey, you know what? It's live. We just roll. So one of the really nice things. So if you see on that top line there, you're going to be able to see your target delta T going on there, and you might also notice that you see wet bulb and dry bulb. But Mark, you just hit a little plus button, and there were a few more features that started coming up. Is that relative humidity?
Yep. So that's where we get our dew point, relative humidity, and our enthalpy calculation is what that's going to show.
All right.
So all that is done for you. You don't have to get out a chart and look at it and do that math. When you're out there in the field and you want to get it done, one, you want to be as accurate as possible and as efficient as possible, right? So you can get that call done correctly, not have a call back, and get on to the next call. So having that do those calculations for you real quick and easy saves you a lot of time. That really that's where your tools are an investment, not an expense. Some guys look at the tools, man, I got to spend that money. Hey, that pays itself back.
Absolutely.
That's how you make your money.
And what's really nice about the hygrometer probes, one of the things that I talk a lot about, and it's a little different. I'm not going to lie to you guys. We're used to having a little bit of an audience, but so if the flow was a little bit off, I apologize there. But one of the really nice things about this is that you can set these up inside, and now you can see your readings when you're outside, which is going to save you a lot of time. You no longer have to run into a customer's house every time you make an adjustment to the unit. Mm-hmm. You're going to be able to actually see real-time readings, what's happening in the house. You don't have to wait for the house to settle down, right? Because we talked, it was like 80-something and I think like 900% humidity today when I got up this morning. So, every time you're opening that door, you're changing the inside atmosphere. By having these probes, setting them, being able to go outside and make your adjustments, it's not only going to save you time, it's going to limit your contact within somebody's house, which I know is really important, especially during these times. Yep. And with the Hub 8, you actually have about 350 feet of connectivity. The Hub 6 has about 150 feet, and that seemed ample for everyone. But we said, you know what, we can outdo ourselves, and we made it 350 feet.
And of course, that has to do with walls and all those things that come into play with that distance. So that's a straight line.
So I can't go through like a castle, Mark? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, depends on how big the castle is. But but having that 350-foot range, maybe that means I got an extra couple walls I can go through and still get a good reading. Yeah. So, having that as strong as can be, that's why they want to keep stepping up and saying, hey, what's the best we can make this? So
excellent. Well, the next part that we want to talk about that's a little bit different.
Yeah, a couple questions before we move on.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so our first question is it for all Freon categories?
Great question. So, and that's one of the nice things about the fact that this is tied to the app. Because one of the questions we get is on, as new refrigerants come out, hey, am I going to have to be without this because I've got to send it in now and have new refrigerants added to it? I mean, I remember the days when I got in this industry, there was, had 5 refrigerants, right? If you dealt with chillers, 11, 12, 22, 502, and maybe 500 occasionally, right? Now there's, close to 50?
There's over 57 refrigerants listed
57
in that
now.
list.
So, but the nice thing about that is, as those refrigerants are introduced, it's just an update to the app. So in that app store, when that app updates, now you've got those added refrigerants. So yes, everything that those new refrigerants out there, it's going to work with.
Mm-hmm. Our next question is from Steve. He's asking is it Bluetooth, and is there any type of range limitations for these pieces?
Yeah, so it is Bluetooth. All of the tools that we saw today that did have app basis. So the scales, those are Bluetooth. The Hub 6 is Bluetooth, and the Hub 8 is also Bluetooth. So as Bluetooth evolves ever so much, it used to be 35 feet was about the standard of Bluetooth, and that's what your scales are going to be. Generally, you're not running too far away from the scale when you're doing the refrigerants and those type of things. The Hub 6 has a distance of about 150 feet line of sight, and then with the new Hub 8 modules, you're up to 350 feet.
And that's 350 feet from the actual tablet that you're using, or from each other, or
from the actual pieces. So
Okay.
you have between the tablet and whatever you have set up. So
And they each have their own connection back. They're not
daisy chain.
Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
daisy chains, so you couldn't put, one probe here, go 100 feet, put another one 100 feet, now you're 500 feet from that first one. They each have their own connection. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and the nice part is if for some reason within that app, I'm actually gonna show a little bit of something else going on there. That when you get the app, but one of the nice things, so I told you that I had hooked up my app before we started this presentation. But if you notice, Mark was talking about that there's stickers on there. What's really nice is those stickers actually color code to the different components within the app. And then next to it, you may see that the different colors, that's going to show you your signal strength. So say you were going through some really, really thick walls and you weren't sure if you were going to get connection, you'd be able to look there and it'll tell you the strength of your signal. In addition to that, there is nothing worse than rolling up somewhere and finding out that you have a dead battery. So this also shows you where the battery is. So as your battery starts to drain, you're going to be able to know that, which makes your life just a little bit easier. And we like to use easy batteries, so we'll talk about that, everything that's included in the kit when you get there, because we do include the batteries for you as well. So that being said, we're going to start talking about what's different about the pressure probe.
One more question.
Oh, no,
Sure.
no,
Yep.
Go ahead.
Ricardo wants to know, does it also work with my iPhone?
So that is an answer that we will discuss. The Hub 6 definitely does, and the Hub 8 will very soon. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the very end.
Okay.
All right. So keep those questions going. They keep us on our toes and, shakes up the presentation a little bit, and I love that. So we're going to talk a little bit about the pressure probe. And now you may notice it looks very, very similar to that pressure probe that I just showed you in the Hub 6, right? So has that nice 180-degree swivel going on there for you, which makes it very convenient. Same size. We still kept that very nice pass-through port for you going on. But one of the differences is you may notice that there's not a wired input. And that's because we heard you guys and we got the questions of, can we make a wireless pipe clamp? And we heard you, and we said, sure, we sure can. So this one now has another battery that goes in there. It's Bluetooth going on. It actually, as opposed to everything else where you have to turn it on, this pipe clamp is so smart. When you open it, it actually turns itself on. It's going to connect to your app going on, which makes it easy. So we kept all of the goodness. We still kept that really nice narrow jaw head for you going on there, as well as we were able to keep that thermally isolated sensor, which is a thermistor. So you're going to get the most accurate read out there. And it's going to be able to connect to your app. So Mark, I think, are we on the right screen?
Yep, I'm on the
Oh,
I'm on
good.
the refrigerant side screen, so
I guess I'll
Yep,
keep them
we're in
as
good
my
shape.
Vanna for a little while longer. So those are some of the updates, right? Let's talk about what probes we added. And the very first probe that we added is actually a wireless outdoor thermometer probe. And that outdoor temperature measurement is going to help you with the target superheat calculations. If you notice, I pulled this little thing up. This is actually a nice little magnetic hanger. So you're going to be able to hang it and be hands-free, right? That's the goal. You set it, you're going to be able to see all of your measurements. And Mark, do you want to talk a little bit more about why that outdoor temperature probe is important?
Yeah, depending on what type of system you're working on, sometimes you're going to charge a subcooling. If it's a fixed metering device or a refrigeration system, not just residential air conditioning, you want to know that superheat to make sure you're protecting that compressor from any flood back. So when we put this outdoor sensor outside, we get that ambient temperature, which can affect your target superheat temperature. So it's going to give that calculation for you inside the app and save you some time.
Yep, and you'll notice that on the app over here, there is an actual spot over here. I think it might be by my little finger that is actually going to show you that outdoor temperature. And we'll have some other shots within this that'll show you a little bit better as far as that goes. But I did mention that there are 2 additional probes. So that's the very first probe. And let's talk about the second probe, which I'm pretty excited about. This is another one that we heard you guys that we had that we wanted to be able to add, and that's a wireless vacuum gauge probe. So we talked about that we do have the standalone gauge, which is the DMG 150, but we also have the WVG2, which is a wireless vacuum gauge probe. What's really nice about this, we still kept the nice little magnet on there for you, but we were also able to, the range is 0 to 20,000 microns. And remember, Mark and I were talking a little bit about how do you clean a micron gauge earlier and why it's important. This one also has oil contamination and sensor fail detection going on there for you. And you might notice that this guy looks a little bit lonely. When I take that nice little dust cap off, you'll notice that it also includes your 45-degree coupler going on there for you. So all of the goodness and all of those things that we were talking about, we'll show you some close-ups of the app actually via the slides and make it a little bit easier coming up. But that just makes a more complete set for you, right, Mark?
Absolutely.
Like, what more?
And like we were talking earlier, how important a micron gauge is because what we're measuring and the fine measurement. Because really what we're doing when we're pulling a vacuum is we're lowering the boiling point, right? Mm-hmm. We all know what at atmospheric pressure, what's water boil at? 212 degrees, right? Mm-hmm. If we can get down to around 500 microns, water will boil at about minus 15. So even if it's the winter time and you're putting that system in, knowing that you've pulled down to a vacuum and you're getting the moisture out of that system, the other thing that can help you do is determine, and you've got a leak rate scale on here and so forth, that we find out, we can monitor how quickly that vacuum rises when we shut off our pump to find out, hey, do we have a leak still in the system? Or do we still have some moisture left in it? So that's all built into the app to allow you to check that, monitor that. The other thing that's in there, you can set an alarm. So if you want to know, hey, I've held a 500 micron vacuum for 20 minutes, I can set that. So now I know that I've held, I haven't just, I hit 500 microns, I'm done. No, we need to hold that for a little while and make sure we've got all that moisture out of the system.
Excellent. And as promised, I did say that we would circle back to that original picture. So taking a look at that slide there, you can see we were talking about where you need to put your hygrometer probes going on there. We talked about the vacuum gauge and that it comes with your nice little coupler going on. We talked about the pressure probes, which still have that nice 180-degree swivel going on there for you. If you notice, everything just fits in this nice little case for us. And I think that's important too, right? Because you guys love the heavier the tools, the better off it is, the more things that you can have to try to carry. And heaven forbid you're trying to get to a rooftop and you have to lug a big heavy hose set. That's not a whole lot of fun. But imagine having to just carry that up to the top. And so you've been able to set your supply and your return, everything like that. Now you can go up and you can start doing the work. I mean, that sounds a lot easier to me. I mean, I don't know too many guys who are like, ooh, you know what? I wish my backpack was heavier. I wish I had more things to carry up the ladder. Do you know any guys like that, Mark?
Haven't met any.
Okay, I was going to say maybe one or two. There might be somebody out there.
You think too, you see the truck going down the road. I know when I used to was at a wholesaler, you'd take things out. Man, they had 4 different manifold sets, hanging in the back because, well, this one's got this scale on it, and this one has this scale on it. hey, you can eliminate that. Because now all you do is select the refrigerant. We talked 50-some refrigerants. You don't have to scroll through all of those every time. You can pick your favorites. You've got 4 that you work on consistently. You can favorite those 4 refrigerants, so it's real quick and easy to pick from those.
So we were talking about the app, and I know we had a question there about that. So right now it is a free app. That doesn't change. It does require having the compatible mobile device, so anything that is Android 5 and above, it will work fine for you. I think you guys aren't unfamiliar with that. We're in some strange times. So there's a slight delay on the iOS version of this. You'll still be able to use the pressure probes and the hygrometer probes if you have that Apple product. There's updates on our website that are coming in daily, but it'll be coming very soon for you. So please be patient with us as we all navigate these same waters that I know you guys are going through too. And then we were talking about the refrigeration screens. We were talking about the different things. So what's really nice about this, and we were actually talking. So by the way, guys, remember, if you're not seeing your things connect, don't pull a Louise. Remember to turn on your Bluetooth onto whatever device you have. That's a common question. I've been guilty of it. I know that I even know better. But as we were talking, it's really easy because you're seeing that screen right there on the slide. And you're actually able to just slide through, and it's not real important that we have any tight shots on that, but you're able to just slide right through the screens and be able to toggle through everything. You're going to see your real-time readings, and with that new Target Superheat, you're going to have the most accurate readings. You're going to be able to see your pressure, your temperature, saturation, outdoor dry bulb, superheat, and supercooling, all on that refrigeration screen. So with that new targeted superheat, it really eliminates the need. You don't have to carry any extra charts. You don't have to use a slide rule or any of those other fun third-party apps that may be out there. It's all going to be contained right there for you. Mm-hmm. Mark was talking about the refrigeration side, and if you can see on that slide right now, we do have 57 refrigerants listed. When we started with our Hub 6, I think there were only 40-some, and so we've been continually adding as those new refrigerants hit on the market. But it's app-based. You don't have to send it in. You don't have to be without your tool. When those new refrigerants hit the market, we're able to upgrade that just via the app. So our phones are always upgrading. Yeah.
So speaking of, when you're switching from one refrigerant to another, what does that process look like?
So that is actually a great question. So you're going to start, and we may want to actually close in a little bit on this to be able to see that. So this is what your refrigerant screen is going to look like. So you're going to be able to star all of your favorites. But when you actually get out of that refrigerant screen, if you see that little canister right there, it's going to show all of the ones that you starred.
Yeah, down at the very bottom. Yeah.
Oh, there they are. I told you technology is great, but working it backwards and upside down is a little bit. So all of those. So most of you guys, I'm going to guess, most commonly that I hear out there on the market is that about 3 to 5 refrigerants is what you're going to be carrying on your truck. So star those 3 to 5 refrigerants. And once you've done that, every time you go into the app, you're able to hit just the little refrigerant canister, and you're going to be able to just toggle right through those. So very easy and user-friendly.
So just selecting that refrigerant type is going to change everything for you?
Correct.
No flashing or changing of the...
Okay.
Nope. That's going to update the calculations, which really that's all you're doing is you're selecting the formula for superheat and subcooling.
Okay.
And of course with blended refrigerants, you've got a separate bubble point and a separate dew point. All that's programmed in the app.
Yep.
So
cool. Is there any type of altitude things that you have to worry about when using this? Can you use these up in the mountains?
That is a fantastic question, and the answer is yes, you can. So if you are some of my friends that are out west, because I know nobody in Indiana is going to be asking me about those altitude questions, thank you for joining the broadcast. I wish I could see some of your mountains, hopefully sometime soon. But you're actually able to go into your settings, and there is an elevation that you can fill out. So if you happen to be out there in the Rockies or something like that, anything above that mile high, you can actually do that and it'll update all of the calculations for you.
Cool.
Yep.
Ferris has a quick question asking about, is it okay to use in wet locations?
So, I mean, yes, it's designed so there's no screens, very few in and out. So if it's raining and you're doing your job, you're going to be absolutely fine.
Okay. Is 421A now available?
You know, I would love to say that I remember every single one of the ones in here, but that is a fantastic question, and I can live tell you 421A is listed. So you are able to use that.
Cool.
And 421B. So if everybody needs that, so. And, you know, I guess we could say, too, that you can download the app before you have the instrument. Mm-hmm. So if you've got some questions, say, hey, I work on an odd refrigerant. Is mine in there? You can download the app, put it on your phone, scroll through and find that refrigerant, whether it's there or not, and say, hey, it's got what I'm looking for, so yeah, let me go pick one of those up.
Cool.
So we talked about the air side. So those wireless hygrometer probes that are not only going to do your delta T, it's going to show you your target delta T, also your dry bulb and wet bulb. And then when Mark hit that little extra plus sign right there, you were actually able to see your relative humidity, dew point, and enthalpy. So you're able to see that pretty easily, I think, on the slide going on there for you. We really do try to make this as user-friendly as possible. And then that vacuum screen that we were talking about. So you're going to be able to see the real-time readings of your vacuum, the deepest vacuum, your ambient temperature, the timer rate, and your H2O saturation. So it's easily set evacuation and rise limits, the timer durations that Mark was covering for us. But it just gives you a more complete picture of what's going on with the unit. So those probe connections is a little bit every side. So we talked that there's 3 sides to the app. So you have your vacuum side, your air side, and your refrigeration side. So when you're on the vacuum side, that's where you're going to go into the toolbox and add your vacuum gauge. And as I said, just remember, once you've put them in there, you don't have to worry about going back and re-adding them. If you get out of range and you wind up coming back, it's going to auto reconnect for you. And I think that's a really important thing when you're going job to job, is that you don't have to stand there and re-hook up your probes every single time. And it's a nice, easy drag and drop interface.
Mm-hmm. Steve had a quick question about reporting. Can you save reports? What does that look like?
So that's a common question. You can screenshot anything. Mm-hmm. The reporting side of things, we do not have reporting within the app.
Okay.
So, but we try to make it easy. You can view all of your system parameters all in one location. Mm-hmm. What's really nice about that, as I said, time, money, anytime that we can, speed up the jobs that we're doing, it's going to be better for all parties involved. So it's the most complete kit available on the market. It's going to give you that real-time target superheat calculations. It has the dual mode vacuum screen for the evacuation and rise test. As I said, it has a 350 foot range going on with it. And it's easy drag and drop. You get everything in a kit. You might see it. That's a little picture of the box. So, this is not so descriptive when you see it sitting on the shelf, or if you walk in here to Jackson Systems. But the box is going to tell you all that goodness that I was able to just explain to you. And then the next question. So we added a couple pieces. And you were one of the guys, you were out there, you were like, you know what, I love that Hub 6, but man, I really love that Hub 8. Well, the good news for you is that we have actually have the Hub 8, the additional, so that wireless vacuum gauge probe and that wireless outdoor temperature probe you're going to be able to also purchase those individually to make your Hub 6 into a Hub 8. So we want to make sure that if you already have the 6, you can add the additional probes.
And you can get the case as well. So,
Yes.
So you can get the Hub 8 case, so everything fits in the same case. So,
Yeah.
So a quick question from Ricardo. He asks, so what would I do with my old manifold testers, my gauges? What would I do with my old gauges? Once
whatever you want to do with them.
I mean, I don't know.
Honestly,
Have a party.
Honestly, I tell you what I would probably do with them. I would hang on to them because you're going to go out to that system someday that's a burnout, right? And it's got dirty, nasty, refrigerant, oil, acid in that system. That's probably what I would save it for. And say, hey, if I've got to evacuate and get this old refrigerant out that I know is nasty because, man, it's compressor fried and it's dirty, man, don't get, your new, and that would be whether you had these or another new set. Save that old set for that old system that has contamination in it that it is, and use that to keep your new set in good condition.
I say pull an Office Space and pretend it's a fax machine, okay? Just my opinion, but, little different opinions going on there.
We have a quick question about data logging.
Yeah.
So is data logging possible?
So the Hub app does not have any data logging possibilities. The question is going to be, what are you needing to data log within that?
Okay. But you have other products that do data logging.
We do.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Just not the Hub series.
Mm-hmm.
The only things that we have that really do a data log are going to be, we have a meter which allows you to do Bluetooth. It has the logging capability. A lot of times it's going to be to monitor something over a long period of time. This you're hooking up, you're getting your results, and you're moving on. Yeah. So.
And we've got the THL2 that's going to do temperature and humidity, which I know we've done a little product segment on it. There's one of them. Right, yeah, just out. Yeah, it's right in the very corner, right over there. So now that won't do temperature and pressure of the system, but it will do the temperature and humidity dew point of the space. So if you've got some place that you're having an intermittent problem, you can set that to record it, see if there's a pattern to it, and go back and visit the site when you're having that problem.
Cool. That's all the questions.
Awesome.